I got something very, very important to say. And this definitely pertains to not just myself, but it definitely pertains to a lot of folks, okay? So all I want is just what's best for the world, okay? And I'm going to say up front that I cannot for the life of me stand humanity, but I do like individuals. You know what I mean? Like, at the same time, I do respect humanity in the sense that I understand the prestige of humanity. For without humanity, civilization would not be a thing. There's a lot of good men in this world who bring something to the table. They build the infrastructure. They keep the world spinning, essentially. Like, you know, there's men who go out there, they get shot to death or so on and so forth just to protect us. And meanwhile, you have women who bring something very unique to the table, which is giving birth to another human being, having the ability to be an empath and nurturing the kids and so on and so forth. And even then, some of them can also bring their own brains to the table. But I guess what I'm saying is that men are able to bring something to the table that women cannot bring, but there's also things that women can bring to the table that men cannot bring, and this balances out human nature. And both sides easily have a purpose in life, which is why I'm heavily against the whole battle of the sexes, the men versus women ideology. I hate it with a burning passion. I really do. And it's not really the full basis of what I'm about to say, but it's a starting ground, because I'm about to lay into some things that I think is hopefully going to help people better have control in their life and so on and so forth. And it mostly is about all the stuff that we pay attention to, okay? Like, I'm not going to touch upon politics or religion, because that's a very taboo and sensitive topic for people, and I wish to keep my views on both of those subjects as private as possible, so I want you to please respect that. But I do have something that could help, okay? So it's like most people already know this about me. It's not even like a common thing. I don't even like to open up about it a whole lot, only because I prefer to remain as private as possible. But for the sake of context, I will put this out there. I do fight depression. I've been fighting it for about as long as I can remember. I have people who watch me who also struggle with it too. There's millions and millions of people across the world that fight it every day. And my heart definitely goes out to those who fight it. And those who have never dealt with it clearly underestimate how powerful it really is, and not for the right reasons. It's a mental illness that definitely is more than just that. It's a very multifaceted thing. When you struggle with stuff like depression, you often lose stuff that you are remotely interested in, like the stuff that you typically love doing. Like, say, for example, you love drawing art, you love making music, you love playing video games or reading books, so on and so forth. You lose interest. You lose interest in that. You often feel a lot fatigued. Like, I'm sure anyone who, and please let me know if you can relate to this. But if you're also depressed, you typically feel a lot of fatigue. Like, even on days where you get full 8-hour, 10 hours of sleep or so on, like, you'll still wake up feeling absolutely tired. You won't feel like getting out of bed, which I can definitely say is something that it happens to me still to this day. You also tend to just tend to sit there and not do anything, and you're questioning. You're in your mind. You're like, what am I doing? You know what I'm saying? It's a very dangerous illness. It's something that, and depression can stem from multitude of things. It could be hereditary. It could be through the result of trauma. It's a plethora of things. You know what I'm saying? It's something that doesn't go away like other folks. To anyone who says that depression can just go away, they obviously do not know what it's like, because they never had it, so they don't know what it's like, and therefore, I'm gonna go ahead and say it, they're ignorant. So depression is something that sticks with you for the rest of your life. It's something that even experts will say can at best be managed, and it can be managed through a plethora of things. And everyone's case is different. That's how multifaceted it is. There's some that require medication, and then there's others that don't need it, but rather just need some behavioral therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy, as it's called. They just need differences in behavioral patterns and everything. So the whole point of this video is to basically give you my perspective of how I deal with it. This is stuff that has helped me, and it's why I'm able to stay afloat, because all I want is what was best for everybody and everything. It's definitely gonna take a lot of time. You're going to fail. I'm gonna keep it 100%. But I find that this sort of mentality and these behavioral patterns definitely help, and I'm gonna explain it. So first and foremost, practicing stoicism, something that I do. There's a YouTuber on YouTube known as Einzelganger. They make a plethora of YouTube content where they give you a lot of harsh truths about the world and everything like that, and tell you how to be alone and everything like that. This is common with a lot of people who fight depression, including myself. I'm definitely one of them, so I'm not excluding myself from the rule at all. We tend to have thoughts that no one cares about us and that we're all alone and so on and so forth. I say that being alone is not a bad thing. Like, knowing how to be when you learn how to be alone, it's actually not a bad thing. You obviously don't want to be ignorant to the fact that you have relationships, because when you tell yourself that you don't that you're not loved, and meanwhile you have people in your circle who will tell you otherwise, it's like you're basically are filling yourself in your head with this narrative that they don't care about you, and you are indirectly pushing them away, whether you want to see it or you don't. That's what you're doing. It's very common, and under no circumstances should you ever feel as though like you're the worst person alive, but it's important that you take accountability for this, because you don't want to push people away who are only there to try to help you during a difficult time. All that being said too, anyway, like, stoicism definitely helps out. Learning how to be alone is definitely something that I suggest that everyone learns how to do. And another thing that you also have to learn too is that the world does not revolve around you. You are not the only one that's fighting it. And above all else, there's people out there who are glad that you are miserable and that you're depressed. I hate to say it, but this is one of the many harsh truths that people tend to avoid, because when you think and go on, and this is the reason why I stay private about my life, because this actually goes into my next point, which is that social media has increased depression for a lot of people. And you know why? Because when you live on the internet and you try to convince yourself that everyone's gonna care or be empathetic towards your situation, you're going to be disappointed, because there's people out there who are happy that you're miserable. There's people who are happy that you look in the mirror and you don't care about yourself. There's people who are happy that you are suicidal and everything like that. I think the fact that people being happy that you're suicidal is an awful thing, but that's how it is. It's really fucked up. You know what I mean? It really is, but that's how it is. And when you go on social media expecting the world to save you, you're going to be disappointing yourself. You're setting yourself up for another world of hurt. And you also have a plethora of people, content creators, celebrities, all that stuff, where they'll put stuff on their profiles and make it sound like that they're living the happiest lives ever, when in reality, behind the curtains, there's something deeper going on. They're only showing you what they want you to see versus what's actually going on behind the scenes. And because people tend to not use their social media in moderation, i.e., I think social media should be used as a means of promoting your business. This is how I use it. I use it to promote my business. Like, I got, stuff like YouTube and Twitch. I make my own music. I'm putting my own merch out there, right? This is how it should realistically be used, to promote your business if you're trying to start a business and everything like that. But when you use it as a platform to vent about how awful your life is, you're giving society way too much information that they shouldn't even know about you, and you're only making it easier for people to just go after you. In other words, you're being vulnerable to the wrong crowd. There's a way of letting folks know how you're feeling, but you have to know who to tell. You can't just put it out there for the whole world to see, and then thus these people come at you, make you feel worse about yourself to the point where you do want to commit suicide. It's horrible. I know that what I'm saying right now makes it sound like that I'm being a little brash and everything, but a lot of folks know this about me. I'm very blunt. I tell it like it is. Okay? And this is key. This is key to fighting depression, okay? This is key to fighting it. Okay? By accepting the many harsh truths about life, you're already living a more realistic lifestyle. In fact, I could give you 2 books that I've read that has made my life infinitely better. And it kind of made me come to terms with everything about the world that I wish I knew when I was younger. But you know what? There's a saying, I was stupid then, but I'm smarter now. These 2 books is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck and Everything is Fucked by Mark Manson. They sound brash, pretty much, and he's very vulgar, just like me. But Mark Manson is a man. So also Gary Vee too. These 2 are some of the most brash, most blunt, and most honest people you'll ever listen to. These are people who will tell you you're not that special. The world doesn't revolve around you. The world doesn't care about you. The world doesn't give a fuck about you. And that's okay. Because regardless if they don't care about you, you as a human being still hold value. You still mean something to people who are close to you. You still mean something to this world. You bring something to the table. You just haven't realized it yet. So, in both of these books, he's basically teaching you how to deal with adversity. So, by giving you a realistic perspective of the world, he's teaching you how to go about life and how to deal with the harsh reality of the world without looking in the mirror and thinking that you don't mean anything. So, as harsh as he comes off, he's also letting you know that if you start giving a fuck about things that matter, such as your mental health, your physical health, your job, career, education, the people who care about you, by only placing your fucks towards these things and prioritizing that above all the superficial stuff, you're going to be living a much better life. In other words, it's a counterintuitive approach to living a good life, and everyone navigates it through differently. But I think what's key to fighting depression is just by understanding the many truths about life and just look at it and going, you know what? It's okay. This takes practice. This takes a lot of practice. You're gonna fail. You're gonna fail. You're gonna slip back. You're gonna relapse, and that's okay. This all takes a lot of time. Okay. I find that just accepting the fact that people are going to hurt me, people are going to be saying all kinds of mean comments about me. Dude, I've been a content creator for over a decade. You know how many times people have called me names or disrespected me? Hell, even going as far as calling me the N-word. You know how many times that's happened to me? Nowadays, I just look at it and I'm just like, is that the best you got? Like, is that all you have? Like, is that your only ammo? Like, come up with something more creative. Like, that word has no authority over me. It doesn't define who I am. It's like shit. And even so, a lot of these people who will throw insults at you realistically would not say it to your face, because we live in an era where you can talk all kinds of shit behind like a phone screen or something like that and not be confronted for it. Mike Tyson said it best. People got too comfortable with talking all kinds of shit and not getting beat up for saying it. Because back then, if you were talking that kind of shit, oh my God, you were confronted, you were beaten up. Yeah. All that happened. And we live in a society where there's a huge victim mentality. It's been this way for quite a bit, but it's gotten a whole lot worse as of late, where people find something to either complain about or feel oppressed or feel like a victim of. and this is something that Mark Manson brings up in The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. The victim mentality makes depression for a lot of folks even worse. It makes the depression even worse. It definitely makes it a whole lot worse. Because when you convince yourself that you're a victim of a society or that you're a victim of a plethora of things, you're doing more harm to yourself than society is. And this is why there's the saying, you are your worst enemy. Because when you suffer, when you imagine these things in your head that you are a victim and everything like that, you suffer more. In other words, you're going to suffer more in imagination than in reality. You understand what I'm saying? But the victim mentality is destroying everybody. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and admit it. I had a victim mentality at one point. I did. At one point, I was always calling myself a victim and everything like that, instead of, using my trauma and then using it to level up and become a tougher person. I instead internalized it, which made my fight even worse. As I've gotten older, I realized, damn, that was destroying me. And because I started taking more accountability for things I've done and finding better outlets, and I can give you some of the outlets that I've done, such as reading self-help books like Mark Manson, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and Everything is Fun, and Einzelganger on YouTube. Search up Einzelganger. Content like that absolutely helps. Healthy Gamer GG definitely helps out. It's like when you have a better resource, that's what is going to help your fight. By taking responsibility for things you do in your life, by understanding that what happened to you is what it was, and coming to terms with it, and using it as a learning experience, and above all else, just having some self-help resources such as books or podcasts and whatever, you're doing yourself more favors. It's not an easy fight. I'm definitely not ignorant to that. Like I said, I've been fighting it for years. Fighting depression is never easy, but with the right resources, you'll be one step closer to achieving your happiness, and you'll be more in control of your life, more than you ever have come to even think. Like, as of now, I am in more control of everything that's around me than ever before. I've evolved, man. I've evolved. I'm ready to achieve greater things. I'm ready to kick things into high gear, bring more stuff for Larry the Lone Wolf, and so on and so forth. Even Master Reptile. I'm even playing an electric guitar too. Like I'm doing great. I'm doing great, man. I even vamped up my collection and everything. I'm groovy. You know what I mean? And it all starts with understanding that you are not alone, and by accepting the many harsh truths of life, practicing stoicism, reading self-help books. I highly recommend Mark Manson and Gary Vee, and yes, even Jordan Peterson. And I guarantee you'll be one step closer to living a much better and peaceful life. Because all I want is what's best for everybody. You gotta stop. The bottom line is, get off social media, put it down, turn it off, sit down, be quiet, learn, read, relax, do better. By the way, Denzel Washington said this, so I don't 100% take credit, but yeah, in fact, Denzel Washington is one of the wisest actors you can listen to. So yeah, get off social media. It's not healthy whatsoever. Ever since I cut social media out of my life, I've been feeling so much better. It's not a good place at all. The only thing I only use it for is to promote my business. That's as far as it goes. Get the fuck out of the victim mentality. Get out of it. Yes, being a victim does happen to people, but choosing to remain a victim, listen to me when I say this, choosing to remain a victim isn't gonna do shit for you. It's only going to make your problem even worse. Okay? When you look at and reflect what has happened, and you start to take responsibility for how you deal with the trauma in the aftermath, then you'll be growing even further. This is something that Mark Manson brings up in The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. What happens to you in your life, as far as trauma goes, is not your fault. Here's what is your fault, though. How you respond to the trauma. How you go about it in the aftermath. You are responsible for your emotions. You are responsible for your behavioral patterns. You are responsible for how you respond to trauma in the aftermath. So, while being a victim does happen to some people, we are ultimately responsible for how we respond to it afterwards. As long as you keep that in mind, you'll be growing further, and you'll be one step closer to kicking depression in the ass. That is all I have to say.